Hare Krishna. Bhagavata ki jai, Shri Sita Krishna Bhagwan ki jai, Shri Radha Mohan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiryet Shravutam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhasatam Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhakti Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. So today we will be covering Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 9th canto, chapter 16. Lord Paraśurāma destroys the world's ruling class. In the previous chapter, 9th canto, chapter 15, we read about Paraśurāma, the Lord's warrior incarnation, and how Kartvirya Arjuna, who was none other than but an incarnation of Sudarshan Chakra, because of pride, offended Jamdagni and Paraśurāma, and thus had to, go through the reactions of the sins that he had and offices he had performed. And he was killed at the end. So we learned the lesson that pride cometh before fall. Also, we heard about the story where, again, regarding the birth of Lord Paraśurāma, is where Satyavati, she took the oblation that was meant for her mother, which Richikamuni, her husband, had prepared and wrote with Kshatriya mantra. And so Lord Paraśurāma was a grandson, had that. Jamdagni was still Brahman because when Satyavati pacified her husband, he said, okay, your son will be a Brahman, but your grandson will be a fierce Kshatriya. He would be able to punish anyone, everyone. And the mother of Satyavati means she took her daughter's oblation, which was invoked with Brahman mantra. So her son was Kaushik, King Kaushik, who is also known as Vishwamitra. That's the title you see. And Satyavati, at the end of her life, she took the form of Kaushiki river. And in Valmiki Ramayana, elaborate description is given how Vishwamitra is sharing this with Ram and Lakshmana, that he resides at the bank of Kaushiki river, which is very dear to him because Kaushiki is none other than Satyavati, his sister. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 9th canto, chapter 16, first verse. Shishito vacha Pitro prashikshito ramas Tatati Guru Nandana Samvatsara Tirthayatram Charitva Shramam Avrajat. Shishito vacha. Shri Shukdev Goswami said, Pitra, by his father, Upashikshitaha, thus advised, Ramaha, Lord Paraśurāma, Tatha iti, let it be so. Kuru Nandana, O son of the Kuru dynasty, Maharaj Parikshit, Samvatsaram, for one complete year, Tirth Yatram, traveling to all the holy places, Charitva, after executing ashrama to his own residence, avrajat, returned. Translation by His Divine Grace S.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Shukdev Goswami said, "My dear Maharaj Parikshit, son of the Kuru dynasty, when Lord Paraśurāma was given this order by his father, he immediately agreed, saying, 'Let it be so.' For 1 complete year, he travelled to holy places. Then he returned to his father's residence." There is no purpose, we'll cover a few more translations to the purpose. Once, when Renuka, the wife of Jamadagni, went to the bank of the Ganges to get water, she saw the king of the Gandharvas decorated with a garland of lotuses and sporting in the Ganges with celestial women, Apsaras. She had gone to bring water from the Ganges, but when she saw Chitrarath, the king of the Gandharvas, sporting with the celestial girls, she was somewhat inclined toward him, and failed to remember that the time for the fire sacrifice was passing. Later, understanding that the time for offering the sacrifice had passed, Renuka feared a curse from her husband. Therefore, when she returned, she simply put the water pot before him and stood there with folded hands. The great sage Jamadagni understood the adultery in the mind of his wife. Therefore, he was very angry and told his sons, "My dear sons, kill this sinful woman." But the sons did not carry out his order. Jamadagni then ordered his youngest son Paraśurāma to kill his brothers who had disobeyed this order and his mother who had mentally committed adultery. Lord Paraśurāma, knowing the power of his father, who was practiced in meditation and austerity, killed his mother and brothers immediately. Purport. The word Prabhu is significant. Paraśurāma knew the prowess of his father, and therefore he agreed to carry out his father's order. He thought that if he refused to carry out the order, he would be cursed. But if he carried out his father's order, his father would be pleased. And when his father was pleased, Paraśurāma would ask the benediction of having his mother and brothers brought back to life. Paraśurāma was confident in this regard, and therefore he agreed to kill his mother and brothers. Hare Krishna. Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yatripatadaham Vande Shri Gurum Deenataranam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So here, there are many lessons. So as I was counting the lessons, they grew to the number of 10. So it's very important for us to kind of go through the story, and as different lessons will come apparent, we will identify them. So in this purport itself, it's given that Paraśurāma knew that his father, is very powerful, and so he obeyed his father with the intention of finding a solution. Right? Now, one of the punishment that Sage Jamadagni is giving to his sons and his wife is capital punishment. He is asking Paraśurāma to kill his brothers because they disobeyed his order, and to kill his mother because she had performed adultery in her mind. So that's an offense, not the sin, because she did not carry it out. However, we also discussed capital punishment in another class earlier, why capital punishment is not right for current age. And the reason given is because many people who have received capital punishment have been found to be innocent afterwards. And other people who actually committed were identified, but it was too late. And so in the current system, which is not very, properly established based on the Vedic principles, there is a possibility of making mistake and giving capital punishment to the innocent. So in this regard, capital punishment is not favorable in current age. Second is Paraśurāma and Jamdagni. By killing the brother and Paraśurāma's brothers and mother, Paraśurāma committed sin. And also, say Jamdagni committed sin. And so every sinful action has its reaction. And so that is revealed later on. In the purpose, Srila Prabhupada said that even if someone is as powerful as an incarnation of the Lord, right? Paraśurāma is said to be, when Sridhar Goswami, when he started the last chapter, he said that Paraśurāma is an incarnation of Lord Vasudeva. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada reveals that he is also identified as a Shaktavishamta. Now if you go to Krishna book, there also it is said that Paraśurāma was an incarnation of the Lord and he was Vishnu Tattva. So yes, there may be a long discussion you can hold that whether he was a Shaktavishamta or whether he was a Vishnu Tattva. The important thing is he was an incarnation of the Lord. And he punished Kartavirya Arjuna because Kartavirya Arjuna had not carried out his duties properly and he had offended and stolen someone else's property. So he was punished accordingly. Now here, it so happens that, after Paraśurāma returned back home and brought back Kamdhenu, his father, knowing that he had killed Kartavirya Arjuna, said, a great wrong has been done. It's sinful to kill a king. And so you should go and visit holy places for a year. And Lord Paraśurāma said, so be it. So as is visible, he is a very obedient son. And he's showing by his example that even though he had killed a sinful king, the king who had offended his father and himself, even though that was the case, and he had punished the king rightly, still when his father said, you go and visit holy places, he agreed. And Lord is setting out a very nice example that one should always, engage in devotional service. And the 5 most potent forms of devotional service are, what are the processes? Chanting of the holy name, reading Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, deity worship,
doing devotional service in association of devotees,
performing devotional service in the association of devotees, and residing at a town. Yeah, visiting holy places. So, here Paraśurāma is encouraging us that we should engage in devotional service. So even though he had not really offended or performed a sin, because Kartavirya Arjuna was the offender in this case and was punished correctly, even though that was the case, he agreed to go on pilgrimage. And he visited various holy places for 1 full year. And at the end, he returned back home. Right? So, he was not a son who ran away from the house for having offended others and then never returned. So he immediately returned. And now here, Renuka is given. Means again, she is giving an example that the senses are so strong that, if not properly checked, one can fall prey to the senses. So when she went to get water from the Ganges, and this water was meant for the sacrifice, the fire sacrifice, say Jamdagni was performing, she saw Chitrarath, the king of the Gandharvas, and he was playing with the celestial women. He was, water sporting. And seeing him with all the celestial women, she was inclined towards him. And she did not realize that the time for the sacrifice had passed. And when she realized her mistake, she immediately took the water, put the pot in front of her husband, and stood with folded hands because she was sorry for the mistake she has done. So again, here, she is setting an example that yes, mistakes may happen, but we should immediately try to rectify them and ask for forgiveness. That is the proper attitude. However, sage Jamdagni, he immediately sanctioned her to be killed. Right? He ordered his sons to kill her. And that is where, as a husband, he was supposed to be her protector, to help her understand that this was a mistake she had committed and how she should overcome the mistake. And so that he ordered his sons to kill their mother. And the sons refused because how can they kill their mother? But Paraśurāma, when he was asked to do the same thing, he did not want to get the same curse as his elder brothers did. So he killed her, hoping that he would get a benediction. So he knew. Prabhu. So he knew the influence of his father. So knowing the influence of his father, he wanted to please his father, so he gets the benediction. And so he gets the benediction from his father, who is very happy after he has killed his brothers and mother, because he has satisfied his father's mind. And his father says, ask for a benediction. What's the benediction? Paraśurāma asks, please bring my brothers and mother back to life and let them not remember that I had killed them. Right? That is an important one. Because if they remember that they were killed by me, they would be shocked. So let them not remember. So saying Jamdagni, he agrees, and with the dint of his knowledge, with the dint of his power, the austerities he had performed. And in Treta Yuga, performing austerity was difficult because Treta Yuga was where, it was cleanliness, mercy and truthfulness. Those three religious principles were still there, but austerity was, lost. So it was very difficult for people to perform austerity in Treta Yuga. And earlier we had heard that, Purāṇa, he inaugurated the fire sacrifices, the home yajna ceremonies. Because the principle of cleanliness was still there, the 6 types of cleanliness that need to be maintained for fire sacrifice was there. And with earning fire, one can attain perfection. So, what to talk about sense gratification? So here, Jamdagni, he brings them back to life, and he said that they were very delighted when they came back to life, as if they had just woken up from a slumber, right, from a deep sleep. So they were feeling really fresh. And so, it continues where now, while Paraśurāma, he had killed Kartikeya Arjuna earlier. Kartikeya Arjuna had how many sons? 10,000 sons. And they were never happy, because they had seen their father was a great personality, who had even satisfied Lord Dattatreya, who was an incarnation of Sudarshan Chakra, being killed by the hand of a Brahman. So they were ready to perform sin in vengeance. So they, once Paraśurāma and his brother, when they were, Vasuman, his other brother and other brothers, when they were away from home, they approached the ashram of Sage Jamdagni. And there, ready to perform the same, when the sage Jamdagni, he was ready to perform fire sacrifice, meditating on the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They got hold of him to kill him. And Renuka, when she saw her husband being captured in this position, in this condition, she, begged for, to them to let her husband go. But they did not heed to her appeal, and they chopped off his head, and they took his head with them. So this is the reaction of the sinful action that Sage Jamdagni had performed. In Purport and Acharya is also explained very nicely, that he had asked his wife to be killed. So he was killed. And it is so that when they were carrying out the head, when the head is chopped off, it's not instant death, you have some moment. So he saw that his head was carried away from the remaining part of the body by his sons of Kartikeya Arjuna. So he saw that ghastly scene, and at that time Renuka, she starts taking her body and calling out for her sons, "Oh Ram, my dear son Ram." And even though Paraśurāma and Vasuman and other brothers, they were at a great distance from house, they could hear their mother, calling out, "Oh Ram, my dear son Ram." In agony, they could feel something bad has happened. So they rushed back. They immediately turned back. And when he came to the ashram, what do they see? That the father has been slain, and the mother was crying. And this is where she had struck her body 21 times, when grieving for her dead husband. So that's why Paraśurāma annihilated the Kshatriya clan 21 times. So here, Paraśurāma immediately picks up his axe, Parsa, and shield, and he heads back to Maheshwatipuri, where the sons of Kartavya has taken the head of his father, Jamdagni. And there he goes and starts killing those sons. And it is narrated that he creates a mountain of eggs. And so 21 times he has killed. Now it is very nicely explained that he is killing. So killing one king was the same as father had identified, but in this particular case he is killing many kings just to release the burden of the earth. Because this ruling class had given up the respect for the Brahminical culture, the Sanatana Dharma, and they had become rogues basically. They had engaged in sense gratification. And if you trace back, it actually started with Purāṇa. He actually did not perform his duties and became attracted to Urvashi. And they saw, he can perform fire sacrifices, go to heavenly planets, we can perform worship to Lord Dattatreya and receive great benedictions. And that was for sense enjoyment, because when he had 1,000 arms, he did not pick up lambs with 1,000 arms, the bells, 500 lambs and 500 bells, and worship. He was more interested in, showing to his queens how he can stop the wave of the Narmada river. He was showing his prowess. He had become proud. That was the sign. And so he was killed, and so his sons were killed. And Lord Paraśurāma, he killed such Kshatriyas, the ruling class, 21 times. Now people may ask, wait a minute, if he killed Kshatriyas 21 times, and he was only accepting Brahmanas as his disciples, he did accept one Kshatriya as his disciple, Bhishma. Right? Yeah. Devavrata. And how's that? He accepted Bhishma because he knew that Bhishma was righteous. He is going to perform, his duties properly. He is not an offender to the Brahminical culture, rather he is going to uphold Brahminical culture, and he is a great devotee. Seeing Bhishma with that attitude, he immediately accepted Bhishma, who was a Kshatriya, as his disciple. Now in the case of Amba, later there was a fight between Paraśurāma and Bhishma. And Paraśurāma had learned, Bhishma had learned everything from Paraśurāma. However, being a Vasu, he knew from his previous birth one specific astra, right? One specific power he had, which was to make his opponent go to sleep. So when Paraśurāma was fighting with Bhishma, he was not aware that Paraśurāma knows this. And Bhishma was about to launch it when Devashinara intervened. He said, don't do that, that would be an offense because he's a guru. And Bhishma, when he fought with Paraśurāma, first he took permission from his teacher, from his guru, that please give me permission to fight with you. Because I'm fighting with you, but I still need to take permission from my spiritual master. So here, he's about to invoke that which would have led Paraśurāma to go to sleep and thus defeated. It was called a draw. And at that time, Paraśurāma, understanding why Devashinara did this, he told Amba that I cannot, make him marry you because he is, strong on his vow to be a, Ajivan Brahmachari. All his life he is not going to marry. And later, how we see that in Bhāgavata, how Bhishma, Amba became the cause of Bhishma's demise. But again, not exactly, because Bhishma is still left when he was meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ante kale cha maveva smaran muktva kalevaram yah prayati samadbhavam yati nasatar samshaya. So Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that at the last moment of death, means at the last moment of life, where one remembers me fully, one returns back to me, so goes back home, back to Godhead, and there is no doubt, samshaya. No other samshaya, there is no other doubt. And yesterday, when His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj, he was narrating, the life of Bhakti Tirth Maharaj, as how magnanimous he was. One of the things he said was very touching. He said, without the shadow of the doubt, we should understand, these spiritual principles and engage in devotional service and follow in the footsteps of the acharyas, without the shadow of the doubt. So we should not have any doubt, that's even the shadow. And similarly, Prabhupada used to use the phrase, poor fund of knowledge. So here, the Kshatriyas who were imbued with the poor fund of knowledge were causing havoc on planet Earth, because they were not respecting the Brahmanical culture and were seeking sense gratification. And so they were turning into rogues and thieves. So, one important thing is, say Jamadagni, when he was killed by the sons of Kartikeya Arjuna, what was he doing? He was also meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord. And it's interesting that even in the Western world, not long back, people are aware of these principles. They are forgetting it now more and more because of the effect of Kali age. If you read Shakespeare's Hamlet, there was an occasion that he could have killed his uncle who had killed his father. But then at that time his uncle was performing prayers. He said, no, I would not give him the benefit of going back. I would not give him such a glorious death. I would kill him just like he killed my father who was eating food. Because when a person is eating food, they may be just seeking sense gratification and may completely be not remembering the Lord. When someone is praying, they are remembering the Lord. So Julius Caesar is saying that, thinking that I'm not going to give him the glorious death. I'm going to give him the same kind of death he gave my father. So this principle was very well known even in the Western world. That, whatever is the state one leaves their body at the last moment, whatever they're remembering, that's where the mind carries for the next birth. So when Paraśurāma, having killed, he brings back, he had entrusted the body of his father in his brother's care, and he brings back the head, and on the kusha, he lays down the kusha grass. And this is all happening in Maheshwari, which is in Kurukshetra. And he puts the head with the body on the kusha grass. And he performs great sacrifices. So fire sacrifice, again, one can attain all perfection using fire sacrifices. So again, that is identified here. That the ability to austerity is not there, but cleanliness is still there in Treta Yuga. So he's performing these fire sacrifices, and after performing these fire sacrifices, he takes the bath. And one of the effects that happens is, by the success of the fire sacrifice, his father, Jamadagni, he comes back to life. And he joins the Saptarishi Mandala. He becomes one of the 7 sages. So it's important to know that, yes, having nullified the reactions, having suffered the reactions of his sin, say Jamadagni, Hare Krishna, was completely purified, and he attained the state of to be among one of the 7 sages. Now, at this particular time, the sacrifices and other places which were performed near Kurukshetra, the Samantaka-Panchaka is referred here. Now, there are different descriptions in different places of Samantaka-Panchaka. In this particular chapter, it is said that when he had killed the Kshatriyas, the ruling class, he dug lakes. Samantaka means neighboring, adjacent to each other. So in this chapter, it said that there were 9 lakes adjacent. And now Panchak comes, so in another place in Krishna book as well as in 10th canto, it is said that he took 5 legs. Hare Krishna, Shishikalanataya ki jai. Shishi Radha Mohan ki jai. Shishi Sitaram Vishwan Hanuman ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anand Gauri Vaishnava ki jai. So I had to dig some more into what was the fact. And it became apparent that there were 5 rivers that originated from the blood of these lakes filled with the blood of the Kshatriyas. So the 5 rivers refer to Panchak, while there were 9 adjacent lakes that had, been dug and filled with the blood of the Kshatriyas. And so the 5 rivers of blood were formed. Can you imagine? And in Kurukshetra, Mahabharata, it is nicely explained that the Samantaka-Panchaka is a holy place. Why? Because this is where Lord Paraśurāma performed the great sacrifice and took the bath. And when he took the bath, it's very nicely described that having been washed of all his sins, and Srila Prabhupada in 10th canto described that Paraśurāma was a Vishnu Tattva. But he's setting us an example for us that one should atone for the sins one performs. And there are 5 kinds of sacrifices everyone has to perform because we constantly are, committing mistakes. Every time we breathe, millions of organisms are killed. Every time we step on the land, under our feet, many ants are killed. And we have rim, right? We are indebted to the demigods, we are indebted to the forefathers. So there are 5 kinds of sacrifices that need to be performed. However, in this Kali age, again based on time, place and circumstances, we have a great concession. And what's the concession? That simply by chanting of the holy name is like performing the Sankirtan Yajna, replaces and actually provides us the same perfection than performing the 5 types of yajnas. And it simply started chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So again, we are hearing a lot of capital punishments being given in this particular chapter, right? First his mothers, then brothers, all these during class. Once so happened that when Srila Prabhupada was on a morning walk, with his disciples, and one of the disciples identified that, in this particular age, they are studying this death, but then they are saying, they are not able to find a solution how to avoid death. And they are saying, death is inevitable to become blissful. Srila Prabhupada gives the example, oh yes, when a sinful man is asked to be hanged, they say, don't worry, you'll be hung, but become cheerful. You're going to die. That's not the solution. We hear about these books, and sometimes in the Bhakti-Bhagavatam class is being referred as well, that what happens at the last stage of a human being, first there is concept of denial, right? Then there is concept of anger, one becomes angry. Then one goes into heavy depression, and finally accepts it. And when one is accepted, they're ready to die. But that's not the process. The process is to engage in devotional service strongly. Timbrena bhakti yogena yajate purusham pura. Right? So one should engage very enthusiastically, determined to serve the Lord so that one can go home back to Godhead. That should be the motive. Once it so happened that there was a magician who was visiting Srila Prabhupada's site, one of the temples. And this magician, when Prabhupada came to know there's a magician visiting the temple, he said, call him in to my room. So the disciples brought this magician to Prabhupada's room. And first magician started with simple magic tricks, changing the color of the feather, taking out a lot of hankies from places, you would be surprised. And then later on he started doing bringing coin behind Prabhupada's ear and this and that. So now the disciples were becoming very uncomfortable because they felt like, he was making joke, of their spiritual master. And then another trick he did was, he made the money go away. So he said, keep a coin, and then the coin will roll away. So Prabhupada said, you can only make the money go away. Can you make it come? Right? It's very easy to spend money, right, when you have. But can you make the money come? And the secret is revealing that Lakshmi is always serving Lord Narayan, Lord Vishnu. So, simply when you serve Lord Vishnu, he provides everything. And then he says, okay, can you get the miseries go away of life? And the magician didn't know what the miseries of life are, what the big troubles, disturbances in life are, which is birth, death, old age and disease. Can you make that go away? He says, no, I cannot make them go away. And that Prabhupada immediately said, I can make them go away. Immediately everybody said, Jai Prabhupada.
Yes.
Because this is where he had identified that he is the greatest physician who can make even the miseries of birth, death, old age and disease go away. And going back to the morning walk, when Srila Prabhupada said that this is not the solution. If you want to stay naked, well, material will give you the facility. You are attracted to the university, so material will make you a tree in the university. You will stand there for 500 years, non-stop. And you can be naked, nobody will mind. So when someone is, very sleepy, so again, the Shastra is given, based on one's propensity and desires, one get accordingly, the birth. There's a yummy verse on that. Yummy of Vakeshvara Bhava. Tam tam viveti kante sadata bhava bhavita. So whatever bhava one has at the last moment of death, that's what they achieve as the next birth. So if one wants to be naked, they become trees. Right? And we see in the Shastra there are many examples given. In Gokul, there were 2 trees. Arjun trees, remember? And who were these arjun trees? The son of Kuvera, Manikriva and Nal-Kuvera. And why were they trees? Because they were naked when Devashi Narada was crossing, and they were again playing with the celestial women, Apsaras. And they were intoxicated. So you become trees. They become trees. But by the mercy of the Lord, because they immediately asked for forgiveness, they realized the mistake. So Devashi Narada was very, benevolent, so he immediately said that Lord will deliver you. He will release you from that painful state. When someone wants to sleep, they get the life of a bear. 6 months, just sleep. When someone wants to, perform sinful activities like opening slaughterhouses, they become cows. They go to the same slaughterhouses, right? So one should understand that when we perform an activity, there is always a reaction. Even a good activity, as a pious act, has a good reaction, but that also binds us to this material world. Because we have to come back, take birth again, to enjoy the fruits of that. And if we have performed sinful activities, we have to take the reactions of those activities. So if you want to stay safe, simply take to the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So now Shukdev Goswami, he directs towards Vishwamitra. He is telling that in the dynasty of Gandhi, the most powerful Vishwamitra took birth. Vishwamitra's name was King Kaushik. Right? His sister's name, Satyavati, she became the river, Kaushiki river. Right? And if you look at the story of Kartaviri Arjuna and Jamadagni, their story is very similar. Vishwamitra happened to visit Vasishtha sage at Vasishtha's ashram. And there Vasishtha, sage Vasishtha, he very nicely This is an impromptu appearance, just like Tattva Arjuna came to Jamdagni's ashram. So here, Vasishtha provides very nicely, makes them very comfortable, great hospitality. And Vishwamitra is surprised. He's a sage living in a forest. And how could he afford such, great facility? And at that time, Vasishtha reveals to him that he also has a Kamadhenu, just like Jamdagni revealed to Tattva Arjuna. And just like Tattva Arjuna wanted to get a cow, but then Tattva Arjuna resorted to, sinful act. He offended by snatching. Vishwamitra, once again, King Kaushik, he asked Vasishtha to give him the Kamadhenu, because this is Treta Yuga, right? And you can perform great austerities, and great sacrifices, and attain perfection. And he said that I should be able to perform and become very powerful. That's the mode of passion kicking in. And so Vishwamitra, King Kaushik, when he puts this in front of Vasishtha, Vasishtha refuses. And King Kaushik comes with his army. This time, he did not have the army, he just had his minister at the time. So he comes with his army, but Vasishtha, with the tint of his power of austerities, he defeats King Kaushik's army. And King Kaushik is surprised. He's like, what's the sense of me being such a powerful king? When a simple Brahman like Vasishtha, Brahmanish of course, can defeat me. So he immediately gave up his kingdom. And as was the original oblation that, Gadhi's wife, King Gadhi's wife, she had taken her daughter's oblation, which was invoked with Brahman mantra. So of course he takes to Brahmanical culture. And Srila Prabhupada, identifies the purport that this gives a proof that one, based on their nature and activities, guna and karma, can change their varna. And here is the example where Paraśurāma, he became like a Kshatriya, he killed and punished the Kshatriya kings, and then he went back to his Brahmanical, culture, became a Brahman, went back to and maintained his ashram. Yet at the same time in his ashram, he made sure that the Brahmins who were his disciples were also warriors, right? He made sure that they are warriors because they should be strong enough to punish the Kshatriyas who are not following the Dharma, their prescribed duties. And somebody did ask me, who was Paraśurāma's spiritual master? Who knows? His spiritual master only had one disciple, that was Paraśurāma, Lord Shiva. Yes. So if you are following Rudra Sampradaya, that's where you realize that that's how the Rudra Sampradaya goes on to Lord Paraśurāma and forth, onward. So here, Vishwamitra, and now we had already heard in the previous chapters, I believe it was in 6th chapter, King Harishchandra's story, where Vishwamitra had taken in dream, Harishchandra had donated his whole kingdom and so forth, and then finally Harishchandra wanted a son, he got his son Rohit by the benediction of Varuna, and Rohit, realizing that his father is about to sacrifice him, in a sacrifice to Varuna, he runs away from home. Every year he wants to come back for 5 years consecutively. Lord Indradev, he comes as a Brahman and sends him back on pilgrimage. And finally, Rohit is able to buy Sunashepa from his father. Not Harishchandra, but Sunashepa's father. Sunashepa was the middle son. So he had 3 sons. And so he brings Sunashepa and gives him to King Harishchandra, his father, and says, you can sacrifice him. Sunashepa was a great devotee of the Lord, who is about to be sacrificed to Varuna and to Prajapatis. So, when the sacrifice has been performed, Vishwamitra is one of the main sages performing the sacrifice along with Vasishtha and others. At that time, Sunashepa, he prays to the demigods to let him live. And he pleases the Prajapatis. Kashyapa Muni and others. And they make a plea in front of Varunadev, please let him live. And Varunadev agrees. Now Vishwamitra, he is touched by the devotional service, by the way Sunashepa had performed. His act, he surrendered. Yes, I'm meant to be sacrificed. I'm ready to be sacrificed. However, I would like to engage this life in the service of the Lord and humanity. When he makes this plea, it was so impressive. Vishwamitra immediately accepts him as his son. So Vishwamitra had 101 sons, right? And I'm trying to remember the name of his sons. So of the 101 sons, the 51st son was Madhuchanda. So all the 101 sons, like these brothers, the sons of Vishwamitra, were known as Madhuchandas because of the great character of Madhuchanda, who was the 51st, son of Vishwamitra. So Vishwamitra says, you should accept the Sunashepa as your elder brother, and he will be the king, and he will be the one ruling this kingdom of mine, Kashika. So here, the first 50 sons, they refused. They said, no, we will not accept him. They were ready to accept Sunashepa as the elder, who is 51st, but they are not ready to accept Madhuchanda, who was the 51st, but they are not ready to accept Sunashepa, who is an adopted son of their father as the elder brother. So they get cursed by Vishwamitra that you become Malechas because you have disobeyed the Vedic culture, you have disobeyed your father's order. Sunashepa, along with the other 50 brothers of his, they approach Vishwamitra and say that they said that they accept Madhuchanda, Sunashepa as their elder brother. So Sunashepa, he becomes the king Devara. And he rules the kingdom of Vishwamitra. And all Sunashepa and all his 50 younger brothers, they obey. They said that we will obey his orders. And they tell him that we will obey your orders. So by their attitude, Vishwamitra is touched again. So he blesses them that you may be father of such great sons. Right? So they get benediction, while the other 50 elder brothers, they got cursed to become Malechas. And the purpose, Srila Prabhupada says that in this material world, in this Kali age especially, people are Malechas because they don't obey the Vedic principles. And the number of Malechas will increase so much that finally Lord Kalaki will have to come. And without discrimination, he will be killing these Malechas. Without looking at what the positions they are holding with his sword, he will be killing them. Yet at the same time, we had a great benediction for at least starting from 500 years, some years back, to for a whole 10,000 years, which is the Sankirtan Yajna being inaugurated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in this particular time, we are blessed that even though we may have performed knowingly or unknowingly some sins, we can get purified and be re-established in our original position as the eternal servant of the Lordship. Just when we start taking through the very first step, accepting the spiritual master and take to the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we should always take to the chanting of the holy name and engage in devotional service. And of course, be ready to ask for forgiveness because Ravika gives us that example. That yes, you have made a mistake, immediately ask for forgiveness, try to rectify it and not commit it. Don't be, Srila Prabhupada gives this example that the churchgoers would go every Sunday to ask for forgiveness, but then starting Monday, they start back on the same path. We should not be doing that. That's what is referred by Maharaj Parikshit as elephant's path. Elephant goes in the water, takes bath, then comes out on the land and puts dirt on it. So that should not be the attitude. We should always, and this is the benediction of the chanting of the holy name, that it purifies. We heard in the 6th canto, in the story of Ajamil, as where this question was raised, that if a person has this tendency to perform sins, even though they are nullifying through various austerities and penances and sacrifices, they have this inclination to continue to perform sins again and again. So what good is this punishment? Right? If a thief steals and is punished, but as soon as he comes out of the jail, he again steals. And Shuddha Goswami agreed, yes. Because even the activities of punishment or penance and austerity, they are fruitive activities. So to be able to remove that, Chetu Dharma Marjanam has to happen, right? Cleansing of one's mirror of heart has to happen, so that one can see themselves and the Lord very clearly. And that happens with the chanting of the holy name, by taking to the devotion service, accepting spiritual master and so forth. Well, Srila Prabhupada, he was in Bhaktivedanta Manor, and there was this reporter. This was cold time. So again, as winter is approaching, I'm remembering more of the stories because I'm feeling cold as well. So this reporter, she was very critical in her questions. She was, asking, why are you wearing this tilak? Why do you have this, strange attire and all that stuff? And Srila Prabhupada, he said, why do you have bare legs? It was cold. And she was wearing a mini skirt, so all her legs were bare. And then Srila Prabhupada immediately laughed and said, it's better to have cool head than cold legs. Right? And we know from with some of the Subhashitas, we know some of the teachings. Just like early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy and wise. That's a fact. You go to bed early so that you prepare your next morning, and you rise early, engage in devotional service, you become wiser and more purified. So, similarly, if you have warm legs, soft stomach and cool head, you don't need to go to doctor, right? So those are some of the facts. So he is giving us those examples, teaching us. Srila Prabhupada is constantly giving his instructions. And another occasion, when he was in New York, the Queen's area, matchless gift store. Once he was walking with in the morning with his, lady disciples, and as they were walking across the street, they saw some young girls, in mini skirts and so on. It was cold. It was really cold. And Srila Prabhupada looked at his disciples and he said, see, you're also performing austerities, they're also performing austerities. But you're performing austerities to serve the Lord, Krishna, who is the master of the senses. And they're performing austerities for sense gratification, because they want to enjoy the senses. And so, you will rise while they will fall, very clearly. So he's making them realize that, yes, people perform austerities, but what's important is, what is the goal of that austerity? Who are they trying to please? Who is in the center? That's important for us to know. So in this chapter, a lot of places we hear, and one of the things I quickly wanted to cover is the Akshahinis. That was covered in the previous chapters and being referred. The word Akshahini, so this is very technical and statistical aspect, refers to a military flanks consisting of 21,870 chariots and elephants, 109,350 infantry soldiers, and 65,610 horses. Now somebody can say, but how are you going to make sure that this count is correct? Right? How do you know that it's not 65,609 or 611, how is it 610? So this is also given from the Shastra, that one chariot, one elephant, 5 infantry soldiers and 3 horses are called Patti. It's not the Patti, a leaf. It's Patti from the army perspective. And the why is also known that Sena Mukha is 3 times what is Patti is. So 3 times Patti is Sena Mukha. And 3 Sena Mukhas, they form one Gulma. And 3 Gulmas are called Gana collectively. And 3 ganas are called Vahini. And 3 Vahinis are known as Prutana. And 3 Prutanas equal to 1 Chamu. And 3 Chamus equal 1 Anikini. And 10 Anikinis are known as Aksharinis. So that's the calculation for an Akshari.
Total amount of the action?
Total is 21,870 chariots and elephants, so equal chariots and equal elephants. 109,350 infantry soldiers and 65,610 horses. And now somebody asks, why are there 3? Well, the 4th side is the enemy. You cover them from 3 sides. And that's how you win, by surrounding your soldiers. So again, different formations are there. And in the Battle of Mahabharata, it's given that, the Pandava side, they followed the Vajra formation. And the Kauravas, we all know that there was a formation only a woman could get into. Which one was that? Chakravyuh, yes. So that was Chakravyuh with the intention of creating formations that if it moves, just like a chakra, like Sudarshan Chakra, when it goes, 1,000 spokes, anything comes on its way gets annihilated. So that was the formation. So that's been given. This is where the chapter ends. And then the next chapter will be starting with the eldest son of Purāṇa, Ayu's descendants. So descendants of Purāṇa. Any questions or comments? Yes, Prabhu?
You mentioned about, thank you for the answer. You mentioned about 5 types of sacrifice.
Yes, Prabhu.
You complete that.
Yes, but
So that's one.
why carry about the statistics 1-1? Sankita Nega takes care of everything. Again, I did not create notes on that. I can remember. Yeah, but there is Pritru. There is for the forefathers. You know it, right? Please, narrate that.
No.
Please tell me. Tell us. People want to know.
No, I mean, the 5 types of sacrifice. You go to Tirth.
Tirth Yatra. Okay, pilgrimage.